Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. A lot of times when I do these shows, I use a whole lot of personal experience because I interact with a whole lot of people talking about policy. And look, not only policy. Yeah, we have fun and we do a whole lot of other things. But when it comes to this show, it's my political interactions that are of interest. And I tell you what, I had a great interaction yet again at one of my favorite spots. You know where that is. I don't need to say that again. But it is interesting because now, folks, we have reached a point in our democracy. We have reached a point in our lives where it is amazing. It is amazing how indoctrination works. And I don't know if you guys have read the chapter on my book, the new book that I'm writing. Remember, I release those chapters as I move on. The chapter that I did on indoctrination. It wasn't. I spent a whole lot of time talking about how the Powell Manifesto, this note that was written several decades ago by subsequently a Supreme Court justice, but warning that as Americans became, I mean, he didn't say it in these words, but this is in effect what he meant. As Americans became more intelligent, as people became more intelligent, they became more progressives. As they became more progressive, they started to ask the question, wait a minute, why is it that I'm doing all of the damn work, but somehow I am not benefiting, I'm not getting all the resources, I'm not getting all the rewards for what I do? People started asking those questions. How do you mitigate that? How do you start telling people, well, you know, you have to start doing things differently? You have to indoctrinate them. You have to start telling them, hey, blue is really green. Red is really black. And you have to start doing all these things and throwing all these things all over the place so that folks don't understand that really, in reality, they are being screwed, right? So, what happened? Yesterday was a perfect classic example. And when I get to the blog of the week, you guys are going to see what I'm talking about. So hang with me. Those of you that are just getting here, stick around. If you're just getting here as well, please remember to share this show because all of these shows have value. Because what we're doing is we're trying to get rid of the indoctrination so that we can look at policy as very much clear-eyed, so that we can start to do things in such a manner that people start to say, I didn't think about it this way. You mean I've been told how to do it. Anyhow, so what is the title of the program today? And let me get to the program. The title of the program is Doctor, I work like a slave for hospitals and insurance, yet fears socialist Medicare for all. This was a classic. Actually, that is the title, not of the show. That is the title of the blog of the week. The title of the show is This Doctor's Irrational Fear of Democratic Socialism Makes Him an Admitted Corporate Slave. That's the title of the show. Okay, I repeat. This doctor's irrational fear of democratic socialism makes him an admitted corporate slave. The subtitle of the show, This is How the Plutocracy Brainwashes People. Create a damaging false narrative about democratic socialism and a willful corporate slave soon follows. Little typo. I repeat. This is how the plutocracy brainwashes people. Create a damaging false narrative about democratic socialism and a willful corporate slave soon follows. When talking to others politically in a social setting, I do not get into ideological labels because that tends to put people on the defensive unnecessarily. I wish we could reach the point where we can accept challenges to what we all believe so we can self-probe. You know, if you can probe yourself without fear, I mean, that is a best existence. Being able to probe yourself. And so what if you're wrong? You move on. I recently had a very good conversation with the doctor that went very well. It was informative. However, because the doctor found himself agreeing with many points that, when taken down its natural path, prove how much most Americans, whether professional or not, agreed with Democratic Socialist policies. And you know, there was a visible pullback when he caught himself, but ultimately in his mind, the unlocking, I am sure, as it was with me in the past, is beginning. The blog of the week is about this pleasant conversation. You know, we will then talk about a very important issue, the false division in the Democratic Party from externalities. Very, very important discussion, my brothers and my sisters. Very, very important discussion. So I want you to stick with me. I want you to remember, this is also a call-in show. I want you to remember to give us a call at 646-716-5812. I mean, when we were doing this on air at KPFT on our 100,000 watt transmitter where we get the entire southeast Texas and, you know, all the Houston metropolitan area, we normally have a whole lot of people calling in. Yesterday, one of my listeners said, I call in often, but I'm usually one of the only ones that call in. Where are the people? And I'm telling you, folks, we are very nice here. Give us a call at 646-716-5812 and be a part of it. Be a part of talking about this stuff. And if you have ideas, bring it up. If you disagree, let me know. I want to know these things. So what I'm going to do, first of all, is I'm going to go ahead and go to the blog of the week. And after the blog of the week, I hope I get some calls or get some input from the blogs or from the YouTube or from Twitch or from Periscope. We're on all those channels. We're on Twitch, we're in Periscope, we're in YouTube Live, and of course Facebook Live. And on Tuesdays, we're also on the air on our 100,000 watt transmitter at KPFT 90.1 FM in Houston. But folks, do you know what time it is? Do you know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Está bien. Es el tiempo para el blog del día. And it goes like this, my dear friends. Doctor, this is what the doctor said. I work like a slave for hospital insurance, yet I fear socialist Medicare for all. I fear it. Really? You mean caller, I see you. I'll come to you right after the blog of the week. You fear Medicare for all. You fear what every other industrialized country is doing in some fashion or some form. You fear that, but you don't fear what is actually happening to you. You don't fear what is happening to your personal economy. This is how this went, folks. And please stay with me. Please listen. While sitting down at a table at Starbucks preparing for my latest Politics Done Right radio show at KPFT 90.1 FM, a doctor friend of mine got into a conversation with another doctor. After snooping on the conversation for a few minutes, I was compelled to interject a few statements. You know, there's just so much you can hold. You hear a whole lot of stuff and you sit down and you boil, and you finally say, you know what? I think even if this guy said, get the hell out of my conversation, I think I rather run the risk of that to move us forward than to just sit back and say, oh, you poor soul. So here's what happened. The doctor was telling my friend how hard he has to work. It seemed like he may have been an emergency room or similar type of doctor. He was complaining vociferously that his workload was steadily increasing as they put more requirements on him as they cut the number of nurses to save money. After listening to the doctor's frustration, I got frustrated. Why? Many of these same doctors are resistant to real healthcare reform. I decided to interject into the conversation. I was going to say something. I couldn't hold back. So, I told the doctor that it is frustrating to listen to his tribulation, knowing many like him do not support single-payer Medicare for all, which by definition will solve all the problems that he's talking about. You know, I mean, you could see him kind of taken aback that I just came out that way and said, look, you guys are not doing things to make your life better, so why should it be better? That's pretty much what I was telling him. So he quickly, you know, he doesn't know me as far as I thought he didn't know about my ideology or anything because, again, I didn't really bring it up per se. But immediately he went and he quickly jumped to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, displaying a disdain I see from many, but I fail to understand. I can't see why the young woman, I think, is a powerhouse. I think this young woman, in as much as all these messages aren't hers, we've been talking about these things for decades. But no one has been able to instantiate it that way. No one has been able to get the grasp of the media the way she has. So instead, we should be embracing her. We shouldn't be saying, well, we've been talking about that all the time. We should embrace her. She's doing a wonderful thing. And the good thing about it is she's up on the material. They talk about the faux pas that she has. Well, you know, for the faux pas that I've committed before, I mean, people would say, oh, he must be stupid because he said X, Y, Z. I've said stupid things in my life before. As an adult, as an old adult as well. So, anyhow, going back to the blog of the week, he belittled AOC. So I asked him what specifically she said that was dumb in his opinion. He could not immediately recall anything. He then said that we simply can't afford the Medicare for all that most progressives support. Okay? I love that. It is great for you to say we can't afford it. That's a good place. I mean, if that's what you believe, then if I can come back and tell you, okay, so you mean if we can afford it, then you would like it, right? And in effect, that's what he's saying, right? If we can afford it, then he will like it. Well, you see, the Plutocracy has been out there trying to say Medicare for all is more expensive. They're asking you to deny math. But I'll go about denying math a bit later. Those of you who listen to the show often know exactly what I'm talking about when I say they're asking you to deny math. But we'll go into that. So, folks, stick with me. But for those of you that don't know if you're going to stick around, I want to remind you, I'm going to explain that we can afford Medicare for all, how to inoculate you from the lies that are going to be coming out subsequently in the next few weeks and months as this stuff becomes more close to reality. The lies are going to be explosive. So we are here to educate together and move forward. But anyway, he said we couldn't afford it. So I said, actually, sir, we can afford it. I asked him, why should we lose 20% of premiums that you pay for your health insurance just to pay a bill? Ultimately, he seemed to agree that single payer would be beneficial because he realized, I mean, if we're giving all these billions of dollars in premiums and just 20% or a large 20% of the premiums, I mean, let's call it $1 trillion. That is like saying we're just giving $200 billion to the healthcare executives, the shareholders, and all of that for doing nothing but paying a bill. So we recover $200 billion right there. That's how we pay for it. Then he agreed that, okay, single payer is more efficient, but we still can't afford it. He still was not convinced more savings could be realized. I pointed out that most drugs' proof of concept, research and development are paid by U.S. tax dollars. When these drugs are likely marketable, private companies then take over, jack up the price, the taxpayer gets no return on investment, change that model, and we make millions for the we the people coffers. Not millions, billions for we the people's coffer. In other words, okay, if you want to sell that medicine at a very high price, fine. But remember, the government is still taking its 50% profit cut. And that's going to be so much damn profit that we can pay so many more bills Because actually, we are the ones who invested to develop the darn thing. Why shouldn't we profit from it? But no, the politicians undertake, give all that money to the pharmaceutical companies, and then they jack up the prices, make the healthcare system high. A lot of people can't afford it, so they drop off healthcare. And you sit down and wonder, this is capitalism, right? You charge whatever the market will bear. I don't have a problem with that. If you design a car and you want to sell that car for $1 million, and however many people buy it, the market decides how many people are going to buy it and how many people can afford it. But when you're talking about healthcare, where people don't have a choice, that does not belong in the market economy, and that is a democratic socialist concept. There are certain things that belong in a free enterprise market, and there are certain things that belong in the social sphere, the commons, and that's healthcare. But they don't want that because healthcare is something that you have to have, so therefore that's a standard cash flow for people to rip you off. So I continued. He agreed with me he agreed with me with the drugs as well. I could tell you, with the drugs and single payer, we could pay probably most of the bill. Then I said that there were even more savings. It costs too much to go to medical school. I told him if we subsidize that the education of doctors would not have to work as hard as he does to pay bills. I think he could see how practical these policies are, but he also saw the path I was taking him down. After he sort of agreed about subsidizing medical school, he recoiled. This is amazing. He recoiled and just blurted out, "I'm not a socialist." I immediately told him, "Sir, I'm going to tell you something, brother. We are all democratic socialists, whether we call it by name or just what we ask for. If you take a look at what most Americans say they want, all the policies they want, it is a map perfect for what we define, those of us progressives define as democratic socialism. It's nothing fearful. It's not that thing about the state takes over. That's BS scare tactics that they want you to run away from, because what you're saying is we are no longer going to let a capitalist structure pilfer us all, take it all, be extracted. But we are so fearful of honesty. We are so fearful of the truth. We are so fearful of somebody else seeing something that we say that doesn't conform. And one of the reasons that I'm coming out straight in going in 2019 and going forward and bringing the words out without fear of, oh, they're going to call you a socialist, is I want to make sure to get rid of the stigma. Just like I said, I got rid of the stigma of liberal. Though I prefer a progressive, because a progressive is even more to the left than a liberal. It's about taking the stigma off of these things and accepting what people really want, what people really need, and that is where that's what we're talking about. So, continuing with my blog. When he said, "Oh, I'm not a socialist," we ended the conversation on a positive note. I told him, well, the conversation was actually always positive. I told him I was on his side. He was cordial and gave me the impression that he was thinking through some of the stuff. Look, indoctrination and ideology are powerful. That's why the second chapter in my book, and before I go through and finish with my blog of the week, what I'm going to do is something that I always forget to do. So I'm going to do and please bear with me and stick with me. I'm going to do it for a quick second here, a quick plug. The second chapter of my book that I'm writing called How to Make America Utopia. That's what I'm covering. I'm covering I wrote it already, indoctrination. So chapter 1 and chapter 2 are already online. And anybody who subscribed to Politics Done Right has access to not only How to Make America Utopia as I'm writing it chapter by chapter. Just go to patreon.com/politics done right. That is patreon.com/politics done right. One more time, patreon.com/politics done right. That's what's on the screen. As I write the chapters, you can go and read the chapters in real time, but you'll have access to every book that I've written that helps subsidize this Politics Done Right show, but we also need many more subscriptions. So you also get to read online the book that I have that still holds true today, as I see it. Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. And this stuff explains everything that is happening in our economy right now that is really there to screw the average American citizen, just to skew money up to the top. From the patent system to the medical system to the defense industrial complex, all these different parts explained in an easy to understand manner. So if you go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright, there's always an option starting at $1.99 if you can start at, but you can do whatever you want to support progressive media, people that are out here and that's going to give you the truth. So I ask you to do that. We're getting back to the blog of the week now. I don't want to hold back here for too long. Okay, so as it turns out, we had a very good conversation, right? But indoctrination and ideology are powerful. I don't think people realize how powerful they are, because it will have you do things that you know. It will have you do things that you know you shouldn't, or you know is not good for you. This doctor was unable to see that the current system enslaves him by design, and the one he fears liberates him. So here it is. If we are successful in getting, not if, when we are successful in getting Medicare for all instituted, for starters, his life is made very easy. He no longer fights with insurance companies to figure out if he's going to get paid, because he gets paid. One entity, el gobierno, the government, pays him right away on agreed upon charges for agreed upon services. That's how it works, right? But then for the doctors that are coming up, the expectation is that we start to subsidize the education of doctors so that they don't leave college with $500,000 in debt. Think about that. We don't want them leaving college with because then they have to charge all that money to educate people. And guess where that goes? In interest for the plutocrats. To make a whole bunch of people make a lot of money on student loans. You know how much people owe student loans at high interest rates just to satisfy the banking sector? We should forgive all of that, but that's a different topic. Continuing with the blog. The plutocrats that do very little work, the ones who like to brag that their capital worked for them, enslaves this doctor. They pay him very well, which is like crack that causes him to work ever more hours as he protects his masters being his enslavers. So they pay these doctors like what he did very, very well. But he's still a slave because he's busting his chops, and the monies that he commands goes to a few in record numbers, not anywhere close to what he makes. You know, I called out a figure. I looked at him and I said, well, you know, maybe if you may make, I just kind of threw it out of here. Maybe you make $300,000 or, no, I make more than $300,000. Okay, I said, okay. Well, let's say you make $1 million. Oh, well, I don't make $1 million. Okay, well, look, let me tell you something. Whatever it is you make, you only make it because of how productive you are for the others. And he says, yes, I know, I work. I'm really like a slave. I said, I understand, sir. You know, I understand. Here's a sad reality. Our economic system capitalizes and commoditizes everything. You know, you have a heart attack. How can we turn that heart attack into a product? You need to wear glasses. How we can turn that into a product? Everything is a product. We capitalize everything. That's why we call it capitalism, right? I believe in free enterprise. We'll talk about that another time. Free enterprise and capitalism are definitely not the same. One, you're free. One, you have a master-slave relationship. An economic system where the owners of capital grow faster than the economy as a whole requires taking a bit more from the classes below. Therefore, every time you hear on the TV, oh, the people who own stocks, their stocks average 7% growth every year. Okay, their wealth grows at 7% every year. And then in the same, they turn around and say, oh, the economy is doing fairly well. It is growing at 2%, or it's growing at 3%. And even when it gets lucky and grows at 4%, we are still getting screwed. Because all that percentage growth is taken by that wealthy few. The numbers tell you. The numbers don't lie. If they're growing at 7% and you are growing at 4%, and most people didn't even grow at 4%. And let me tell you how they rob you, okay? Because people say, you can't be right, Egberto. You just can't be right. Okay, you get a raise. Let's say you're making $50 an hour, and you get a raise. Well, let me be more practical, what people kind of make for real. Let's say you're making $25 an hour. And let's say you went ahead and you got a 5% raise. Guess what else is happening, brothers and sisters? Your healthcare cost grows faster than inflation, faster than the wage growth. Which means as you are making more money, healthcare is taking much more, right? And why is it taking much more? Because those people who own the health insurance companies, the hospitals and everything, they want a 7% growth. So they have to charge more. It's not that their costs are increasing. It is that their growth rate needs to stay at 7%. That's what they want. And who pays that? You do. Because they're the ones with the marketing power under our economic system. Is there a way to mitigate that? Of course, we can allow them to charge you that. And as we see how fast they grow, we could tax that right back into the economy, then start giving people subsidies to pay for what they increase in price, not illegally, but unfairly. There are a lot of ways around these things. And those ways around these things is what democratic socialism does. The people say they're going to be a democracy and decide how they do these things. It's not the fallacy that you read about. It's not the fallacy that you read about. And that is what is so important, brothers and sisters. We have to educate ourselves so that when they slap us with all the crap, we can come back and say, you're wrong. This is how it really works. This is how we solve the problem. This is what we're going to do. So continuing with the blog, and I'm coming to you, caller. Continuing with the blog, what does that mean? All right, let's continue. Here is the sad reality. Our economic system capitalizes and commoditizes everything. An economic system where the owners of capital grow faster than the economy as a whole requires that they steal your money. What does that mean in healthcare? To ensure the wealthy continue to grow at these rates require several behaviors. Reduction in staff and forcing some to work much harder, likely for no marginal pay increases. It means insurance companies denying coverage for medicines and procedures based solely on the bottom line and not some medical reason. Doctors who most times must borrow hundreds of thousands from banks to charge less than optimal interest rates are forced to have high fees to transfer that wealth to the bankers as they pay off loans. So that is what it really means, right? Them overbilling you, overtaxing you, overworking. The reasons, these are the things that you actually see as the results of thereof. Doctors who most times, or rather, we can replicate this scenario for family leave and many other areas in our economy. We can replicate this scenario for family leave and many other areas where we are enslaved by the wealthy few willingly because we've been indoctrinated into the belief that these people are worthy or earned their wealth. The wealthy in general either inherited their wealth, and those who claim they're self-made generally made it on your back. I always give the example of not only Bill Gates, but also of Jeff Bezos from Amazon. That $160 billion, he had very little to do with that the appreciation of the stock to give him that $160 billion. But instead, all the people that made up his company and made it successful are the ones who did it. He just happened to, in a capitalist system, he just happened to reap the vast amount of rewards that company that everybody else built on an idea that he had. On that one idea, he said, I can make you all slaves and I make the real money. We've been taught to believe that that is okay. And ask yourself, please ask yourself, as a person, ask yourself, why is it that you believe that? And not only why do you believe that, why is it right? Ask yourself honestly. Sit back and forget the indoctrination. Just ask yourself, why is it that all these people that work for all these companies and a few, because of stock appreciation, because of the profits, get to reward themselves for what you do? Ask yourself why. This system isn't divine. This system isn't God-given. This system isn't a system that says, oh, these are the laws and how they must work. This was man-made. And notice I didn't say human-made. I said man-made. This was a man-made system by a sect of men who found a way that only the invited really can take off in this society. And I'm going to explain to you about the invited before. Because when I tell people that to be in this group or this club, you really have to be invited. People are like, oh, no, brother, you can earn your way in. I'm like, you can earn yourself in, and then they choose who become members of the club. Don't ever dare not. Even I have a software company that did quite well. Even when I sit down and analyze it, right, in doing well, I was invited to do well. Remember that. That's another topic for another day. Okay? The stockholders of the hospitals and insurance companies who own the doctor make an unearned profit from his labor. And to keep a high growth rate, they must squeeze the doctor and deny health coverage to his patients. Migration to a well-designed healthcare system would dramatically reduce the doctor's workload. He could charge more reasonable rates since we would subsidize his medical schooling. We could force drug companies to lower prices, or we the people could manufacture the drugs. We could eliminate private health insurance for basic health care. Private insurance can always sell high-end products. You know, if you want petal-covered beds, if some want that, fine. Buy yourself a policy that gives you petal-covered beds. The doctors can get rid of most of their administrative tasks given that they only need to submit their bill to the government for payment. And the government is not a bad word. Anytime you hear somebody talking about government being bad or I don't want government, look in the mirror. They're saying you are bad. When they say government is stupid, you are. Remember that. We, the people, is government. And if government is bad, is we are making government bad. Let's make government good so that the bad corporations cannot be overridden or cannot override the government. You see, the idea that we have in society today is to make government as bad as possible so that the good benevolent corporation can come in and say, we can do it better. But remember, a corporation is a very small subset of people, the shareholders of that company. And in effect, what you're saying is you're taking away we the people to we the shareholders. And I'll be damned if I want to have a society that is run by we the shareholders, because we the shareholders doesn't mean us all. It means us very, very few. So folks, single payer Medicare for all is the answer. As we get rid of the minutia and spend the time to break things down, I am sure it will become clear to most, including the doctor that I spoke to. That is the blog of the week. Comments, anything that you'd like to add, please, please, please remember, this is a call-in show as well. And let me go to my first caller. I think this is my friend from Singapore. Let's see. Come on in. Let's see. All right, let's get you up. I think you're in now. Come on in, Skype caller.
Yes, my friend, Egberto. How are you today?
All right. How are you doing, my friend?
Okay. In United States right now, we have governmental corporations for the corporations, by the corporation exist. And they don't care for humanity anymore until we reverse it and make it government of people, for the people, by the people, we have issues into issues into issues as we see every day.
Yes, sir.
I mean, look at President Donald Trump himself is one of the 93 million people who are obese.
Right, right. Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely so.
And
Mm-hmm.
we will not be happy because, as you mentioned, the doctor who's going to be a doctor at least pays close to $500,000 debt and etc. So if we have a democratic socialist government in the United States, what will happen? Everybody will be happy because first, tuition free, as Andrew Yang or Bernie Sanders says, the same thing. I mean, universal basic income of 1,000, I think is less. They should give 1,500 to everybody. And number 3 is going to be, Medicare for all.
Right.
These 3 things we have to have. It is human rights. If you don't have insurance, means you don't have human rights. And yet, again, all the governments in the world has been tested by the people of the world for over
several hundred years.
3,000 years.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, more than that. Yeah, 2,000 years plus. And they bring kingship, they bring Republican, they bring Democrat, they bring socialism, they bring other Islamic Republic of Iran.
Right.
Nobody happy right now. Iran wants to change. They are begging, we want to get the, it's like for France, when France Revolution had happened, they said we don't want any religious affiliates rule our country anymore. They got their system back, they're happy, and it went very good. But again, Macron came, did a lot of damage to the people.
Right.
And so now people again on the 12, 13 weeks of mass riots in Paris and surrounding cities. So we see people are tested. So in order to be happy, you give us a good solution, and people need to understand. I mean, I talk. The other person says I'm socialist. Okay, if you want to call me socialist, I'm socialist.
Right. Now, here's the thing. I don't care what labels folks are going to call me anymore. And folks, I'd love to hear from more of you. 646-716-5812, or you can leave a message. I notice I've been looking through and have messages on both several different pages here that I have to go through. But folks, give us a call, 646-716-5812 if you'd like to add to the discussion. Now, I really don't care if somebody says, oh, you're a socialist or whatever, because look, I know what I want. I want freedom, and not only freedom, I want the right not to have a corporate entity continue to screw me, my family, my friends, my acquaintances. And what I'm saying is the reason that they're successful in screwing us all is that enough of us don't really know the truth. One of the things that I left all that I was doing in my software company to do this is because, you know what? I could sit down there and help game the system and be just good at it. I was talking to a friend, and I told a friend, you know what? This friend decided to stay with or been with corporate America, and they're happy. They believe they can help by being there. And I said, okay, good. If you're throwing your money to help the movement that is ultimately going to make things fairer, that's fine. I can understand that. But again, you hurt most. If you hurt most, you hurt all. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. You know, it eventually, eventually it gets very lonely. It gets very lonely when everybody is in dire straits and you're doing fine. And I can tell you that. you have to have foresight. You have to have vision. You have to be able to look in the future and say, you know what? If things continue this way, we will indeed have a collapse. Is there something
Yes.
you can do? And that is my goal in life, right? You know, I got my kid through her undergrad. She's doing her med stuff on her own. That, well, you know, of course, parents still always help. Well, that'll never change. But the thing about it is, it's very important. It is ultra
Yes.
important that we don't become insular. That we really become our brothers and sisters keepers. Because ultimately, if we don't, our brothers and sisters are coming for those who the plutocracy chose to make okay, and they're coming with the pitchforks. Go ahead, my friend.
Yes. Right now, President Maduro is elected in Venezuela, but they are trying to say there is no food in Venezuela, so socialism. This is what will happen to you if you go to socialism.
I want to stop you right there. I need to stop you there.
etc.
I need to stop you right there for one reason, my friend. Please bear with me, because I want to make. I have a friend that wants to sit down and have coffee with me about Venezuela, because he said I'm all wrong about Venezuela. I don't think I am, but I'm going to sit down and have coffee with him. But before you say that, I want to say something. Let's remember that Chavez made big mistakes. Maduro made astronomical mistakes. But let's also remember that what really has that country in dire straits is what that country's own plutocracy did to make sure that the economy didn't function, with also the help of the United States freezing out any kind of assets out of there. And that's what caused the collapse. It was not Democratic Socialism.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, it's the fault of United States of America that Venezuela is going down. People of Venezuela must be understand. At no way they budge for it, because if you do not support President Maduro, you have done wrong to your country. Because yes, if the door were open, all your groceries would be full. And then they don't say, oh, socialism is bad. You see, everywhere is empty. No, because of Donald J. Trump did it.
Well,
Donald J.
let's
Trump,
not only blame
because
that.
they have so much asset.
Right. Let's
So
not only
much
blame.
assets in it.
It's not only Donald Trump, it's President Obama as well. It's all of them that constantly kept Venezuela under duress. It's not only Donald Trump. It is American plutocracy that does it, or did it. We have to remember that. All of them did it. We have a United States policy in the Western Hemisphere that's very incoherent. I can tell you, and let me just say, I'm originally from Central America, Panama. And what they did in Panama was a darn similar thing. What they did is our Balboa is indexed to the United States dollar. And what they did is they kept the dollar out, and had with the expectation that when the economic strife came about and people died and people started to be in real dire straits, that somehow they would overthrow Manuel Antonio Noriega. They didn't, so then America invaded and killed 10,000 Panamanians. And no, that's not what you're going to read in the books. In the books, you're going to see 1,000 Panamanians. In the UN report, you're going to see 4,000 Panamanians. I'm telling you, 10,000 Panamanians. But anyhow, so let's be real here. It's not democratic socialism that brought down Venezuela. Let's look at Norway. Let's look at Denmark. Let's look at Sweden. All these places practice this same thing. Freedom and free enterprise reigns, okay? Let's not allow them to change the reality. It is our job, my dear friend, and all those folks that are listening to me, for us to remain educated on all these issues. Only if we remain educated can we also re-educate other friends of ours, and other friends can educate their friends, and their friends can educate others. That is how we are going to move forward and make a difference in this society. Go ahead, my friend.
Absolutely. If you want to make America great, this is the way to make America great again. Otherwise, United States of America going to collapse. Is coming for North America very soon, very faster than you think, because we are right now about 25,000 stocks. It's fake. Totally is a
Oh,
fake.
yeah.
Fake. Yeah.
You just hit that on
will
the
go
money.
down.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Fake, and it will go down like a 2008
there's nothing holding it.
collapse happened.
Let me tell folks,
Go ahead.
try to get folks calling. Folks, if you're just listening to us or just coming to us, I'd like to ask you to go ahead. If you have something to add to the discussion, give us a call at 646-716-5812. And before I forget, it's at the 45-minute point, so I need to do my quick ask and say, folks, those of you who are listening now, please consider becoming a member of Politics Done Right. Subscribe to Politics Done Right. They start at as low as $1.99. Anybody who subscribes to Politics Done Right will get advanced copy of How to Make America Utopia. I'm writing that. I'm on chapter 3 right now. Chapter 1 and chapter 2 already online. Those of you who are subscribers right now will be able to read those chapters now online. As by the way, we also have, I went ahead a couple weeks now and placed As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. That's a book that I've completed quite a few years ago. These things apply. It shows you how the economy really works. It's very easy to understand. It's not for the economist, but it is for a neophyte who just wants to learn how it is that these things work and am I really being screwed? And by the time you finish reading this book, you're going to be very clear-eyed as far as how corporations and their lobbyists and all these things, and this is in simple terms, have screwed us based on the laws that we have on the books today, from laws of the patent law, the war industrial complex, the medical industrial complex, all that kind of stuff and what it stands for. We talk about the Powell Manifesto. Well, remember, the Powell Manifesto is that document that was designed to indoctrinate us into believing that we needed to follow the mantra that we're following right down, from trickle-down economics right down. It is a thing that they tell you within that document that they intend to indoctrinate you, from the media to the schools to everything. We go over that. That, by the way, that is in chapter 2 in my in the book that I'm writing right now, called, again, How to Make America Utopia. How to Make America Utopia. Okay, let me get back to the program with my good friend here. Continue, my friend.
Yes, again, right now this present system, is going to be collapsed sooner than later. And all the peoples of world already tested all kinds of systems. What we need to do is to bring human capitalism, according to Andrew Yang,
Right,
back to United States, and give free Medicare for all, universal basic income of at least $1,500, because he's initiated 1,000. I say because if a person is one person, 1,000 is not enough for him to find another job training. So maybe 1,500 to 2,000 minimum, and of course is Medicare for all, universal basic income, and free tuition from start to the end. And once the doctors and engineers and whatever field they will be, then they don't have to owe anything, $500,000, $500,000 to student loans, which plus interest would be at least a lot, close to $1 million.
Right.
Yeah. But we are not. Then those doctors will really work good because they have less tension on their back. They will take care of the people good as possible, and we have a great country. And why we have to spend 60% of gross income for military? We need to spend maybe 20 to 30%. That's it.
If that much.
And the rest.
It's a racket.
Yeah.
It's a racket to pay off a whole lot of companies. But here's the deal. I have another quick subject that I have to go over after this one. So I want to change into the other subject real quickly now, because I'm actually a little bit behind. But here's the deal. I want to read what I wrote here for the show. And what it is, folks, is that there's a whole lot of Democratic candidates running right now. Okay? My My two picks right now are, of course, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. For because of age issues and gender issues, I'm kind of I love Elizabeth Warren, but as a past, I was a Bernie Sanders delegate. I am still, my loyalties is still pretty much with the policies of, and I am not into personalities. I'm into policies. My loyalty are still is still with Bernie Sanders policies, and one of the things is Elizabeth Warren said a few things that concern me, but again, she is my secondary candidate right now. So it's Bernie Sanders first and Elizabeth Warren second. That's my personal choice. Now, why am I saying this now? It is clear that from the reports that Operation Disrupt the Democratic Party has begun. We must all come together to mitigate this. How? We must stick strictly to policy differences and let Democrats and independents decide. We must note that for too long, corporations have had an undue influence on our party, but it is now high time that we take this into our own hands and take responsibility for it. Yes, they are stakeholders, corporations are, and we must listen to their input, but we must ensure that we are biased to the average person and not the will of the corporation. We must remember that lobbied corporate policy by fiduciary responsibility is biased to the shareholder and not, I repeat, and not to the average American citizen. So going forward, I'd like to ask this of all Democrats or people who are playing around with the Democrats in this election cycle. Be careful with Facebook and don't buy the negative attacks on other candidates. I have so much negative attacks, I have so much information that could be used negatively on all the current candidates, and some of that was just pushed towards me. Right? That, oh, wow, did you know this? Did you know that? Did you know this? Did you know that? With the intent that, well, I'll use our platform. Our platform. You notice I said our platform? Why do I call it our platform? Because it's our platform. To use our platform to malign these Democratic candidates. I will not do so. You won't hear me speaking negatively of any of our Democratic candidates from a personal standpoint. However, I will be contrasting policies unabashedly. I will be contrasting policies unabashedly. And I think that is how we must work this election. We do not allow externalities to come out, and this is not going to be a show of, oh, he's nice or I like him. It has nothing to do about that. Let's make
about the policy only.
Right. Let's make this solely about policy, and that way we don't have these folks going back. Oh well, Bernie is this a racist, and none of that. None of our candidates are. All our candidates.
Bernie Sanders actually. Bernie Sanders actually he loved to make United States like Europe. And that's why he's very popular.
Right.
He's popular in Oregon. He is popular in many, many states in United States of America.
Right.
And because he knows exactly what needs to be done. I mean, in his message, he said to Donald Trump that you are a psychopath.
Right.
And we are coming to kick you out of the White House and take America back and make a new America with taking care of our own people. American people always should come first. I mean, but even if he give us a Medicare for all, free tuition, and universal basic income of, say, $1,500, $1,000 is not right. But anyway, it's still, some people are going to say, I don't want Medicare. Okay, you don't want your Medicare? Give it to somebody else. You can sign, say, please give it to my sister, for example. Or,
Yeah.
or you don't like your universal basic income, you're receiving 1,500, or maybe probably to be with 1,500 at the midpoint is much better than 1,000. Okay, 1,500, you don't like it, tell them, write it, it's a signature, say, give it to my neighbor. My neighbor needs more than me. Okay, that's fine. There's no issue here. But you see how you can turn something to good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you don't need it, if you are, I don't want to touch that, man. I don't want.
My friend,
You
I gotta
don't want
wrap.
it?
I gotta wrap it up now because we're almost done. I
Yes.
gotta do my last ask, but I hope you guys enjoyed the program. We're gonna continue this. We're gonna continue to fight. We're gonna continue to bring good folk on. This week, I'm kind of light on folks that I'm bringing on to the show, mostly because the setup. I need to give a confession here. I am overworked, overwhelmed, and everything, and playing producer and writing all the blogs and all of that has been very taxing. So I kind of had to slow down on for this week for now on getting folks on. Likewise, we're supposed to have our chat, our video chat before the end of the month, where I get anybody who wants to just have a video chat. We sit down and we're using Zoom, the Zoom product, to have a talk among all of us who want to just get together and talk about issues or what you'd like to see of the program, etc., who you'd
Great.
like to see on. So we're going to have that sometime. I'm getting the upgrade to the Zoom product to one that works for professionally, that is. And so all of that is about to come to pass. Now, so
Excellent.
I also got a producer. Go ahead.
My last word is to you. I appreciate you giving me time to be part of your show. I goodbye with you right now. Vaya con Dios, Egberto.
Muchísimas gracias. Y tenga buen día, hermano. Thank you so kindly. Anyhow, let me tell you, folks. So it's been taxing on me. I got a producer or somebody that says they are interested in being the producer. We're going to exchange probably a website or something for that, because as you know, we're still trying to get our membership level up on Politics Done Right to make this stuff self-sustaining. Right now, we're still bleeding the bank. So what I want to ask you, if you have the wherewithal. I mean, I'm pretty sure if you saw me in a coffee shop, every few often you'll get us a cup of coffee or a sandwich or something. I'm asking you to consider for the entire country and what we bring to the country to consider doing that. Please go to patreon.com/politics done right. That is patreon.com/politics done right. Anybody who's subscribed right now to Politics Done Right, you get to view, as I write the book, How to Make America Utopia. That book is already on. Well, the first two chapters that are complete are online. Of course, by the way, all those chapters will be repolished when we're getting it into the book, which you would be a party of as well. And likewise, the book that I've written called As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, the entire book is online. Subscribers get to read that book online right away. It's still applicable today, and I guarantee you learn about certain things, you're going to shake your head and say, wow, why didn't I see that? I didn't know that. That is what we are all about, my dear brothers and sisters. That is what we're all about. Please consider subscribing. I really need several hundred, actually more than 700 small subscribers so that we can keep this thing going. We need to be doing some more traveling to D.C. and New York, but we can't do that right now until we get our membership up. But the other thing that I wanted to do is go around to sample into different parts of the country as the election goes on, so that we can bring you what's really out there on the ground, not what the media is telling you. But we can't do that unless we get our membership way up. So I'm asking you to, if you're not a member, please consider being a member. If you're a member and you can do a little bit more, I'm asking you to do that as well. And if you're a member, or you can't be a member, but you can offer some assistance in anything, tell me, and we will be more than happy to do it. This is a joint project. This is something that we have to get done for our country. So thank you so kindly for being here. You know, my name is Egberto Willies. Love you guys. And you know how I end this, baby. I simply say, this is Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, and I am out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.